The champagne flute in my hand felt like a weapon I wasn't allowed to use. I stood in the corner of the Millbrook Social Club's marble-floored ballroom, watching my wife of 12 years introduce me to her corporate friends as my roommate. "Everyone, this is Eddie," Mara announced with a practiced smile, her manicured hand barely touching my shoulder. "He's well, we're more like roommates these days since I'm practically single again." The laughter that followed hit me like a slap. "I'm Eddie Forrest, 42 years old, owner of Forrest Construction, and apparently now reduced to being Mara's roommate at her company's annual gala. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd built half the renovations in this very building." "Roommate, huh?" I said, loud enough for the circle of her coworkers to hear. "Funny, roommates usually split the mortgage. I must have missed that conversation." Mara's smile tightened. "Eddie's so dramatic. He knows what I mean." But I was watching her friends' faces. Sienna Walsh, Mara's best friend and self-proclaimed lifestyle influencer, smirked behind her wine glass. Julia Martinez from HR looked uncomfortable. And then there was Lance Bishop, the wealth management consultant who'd been hovering around Mara all evening like a shark circling chum. "So, Eddie," Lance said, straightening his designer tie, "what do you do when you're not roommating?" "I build things that don't fall down," I replied. "Novel concept, I know." The group laughed, but Lance's expression darkened. He was everything I wasn't, polished, connected, driving a BMW that cost more than most people's annual salary. He was also, I was beginning to suspect, sleeping with my wife. Mara had been different lately. Distant, always on her phone, always working late, always finding reasons to go out with the girls. Tonight, watching her lean into Lance's personal space while completely ignoring my existence, the pieces were clicking into place with uncomfortable clarity. "Well, I think it's wonderful that you two have such a modern arrangement," Sienna said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "So many couples are afraid to admit when the romance is gone." "The romance isn't gone," I said evenly. "It's just taking a little vacation. Sometimes it comes back with souvenirs." Mara shot me a warning look, but I was past caring. I'd spent 2 hours watching her flirt with every man in the room while treating me like furniture. The final straw came when she excused herself to powder her nose, and Lance followed 30 seconds later. I waited exactly 5 minutes, then walked to the bathroom hallway. Through the slightly open door of a storage closet, I could hear Mara's breathless voice. "We have to be careful. Eddie's getting suspicious." "Relax, babe." Lance's voice was smug. "Guy like that? He's probably grateful someone else is keeping you happy. Less work for him." Their laughter felt like acid in my veins. I walked back to the party, finished my drink, and approached the group where Mara had returned, lipstick slightly smudged. "Well, roomie," I said cheerfully, "since you're practically single and all, I assume you've arranged your own ride home?" The conversation stopped. Mara's face went pale. "What?" "You know, like roommates do. Handle their own transportation. I'm heading out." I pulled out my phone and made a show of calling an Uber. "Don't wait up." "Eddie, don't be ridiculous." "Ridiculous? Me?" I pocketed my phone. "I'm just following your lead. You want to be single at parties, be single getting home." I turned and walked away, leaving Mara standing there with her mouth open and her friends staring. The last thing I heard was Sienna's voice. "Oh my God, Mara, what a drama queen." Yeah, drama queen. That's what they thought of me. They had no idea what drama actually looked like. I woke up at 5 a.m. in my workshop, surrounded by power tools and the smell of sawdust. I'd spent the night in my sanctuary, the basement workshop I'd built when we first bought the house. Mara never came down here, said it was too masculine and cluttered. My phone had 17 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Mara. The progression was predictable. Confusion, then anger, then panic, then bargaining. "Where are you?" "This isn't funny, Eddie. My car isn't in the driveway." "Did you take my keys?" "I'm locked out of the house. Call me now." I had indeed taken her car keys. And yes, I'd changed the locks. Amazing what you can accomplish when you own a construction company and have friends in the locksmith business. The doorbell started ringing at 6:30. I ignored it, made coffee, and started planning my day. First stop, Rita's Bar and Grill, where the city's gossip network operated with military precision. Rita Kowalski had been serving drinks and collecting secrets for 20 years. If Mara and Lance had been carrying on, Rita would know. I drove to Rita's in Mara's Honda. She could figure out her own transportation situation. The morning crowd was already there, contractors, shift workers, and the unemployed who made Rita's their second home. Well, Rita said as I walked in, "if it isn't the roommate." Word traveled fast in a city of 30,000 people. You heard about that already? Honey, half the town heard about it. Sienna Walsh posted the whole thing on Instagram. Rita poured coffee without being asked. Said you abandoned poor Mara at the party. Abandoned, right. I sipped the coffee, which was strong enough. Rita, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Her expression grew serious. Shoot. Mara and that Lance character. How long? Rita's pause told me everything. Eddie. How long, Rita? 3 months, maybe 4. Every Thursday, like clockwork. They thought they were being clever, coming in during the dinner rush when it's busy. She leaned across the bar. I'm sorry, hon. I thought about telling you, but it wasn't your place. I get it. The coffee suddenly tasted like ash. Anyone else know? Most people suspected. Mara wasn't exactly subtle about it. Last month she was in here bragging about some expensive restaurant Lance took her to. Said her roommate wouldn't appreciate the fine dining. There it was. She'd been calling me her roommate for weeks, maybe months. Last night wasn't a drunken slip. It was her public coming out party. I spent the next hour listening to Rita and her regulars fill in the details. Mara had been living a double life, posting on social media as if she were single, accepting expensive gifts from Lance, even telling people she was figuring out her exit strategy from our marriage. The thing that gets me, said Big Mike Kowalski, Rita's cousin and my best crew chief, is how she acted like you were the problem, like you were holding her back from some glamorous life. Maybe I was, I said. Bullshit, Rita snorted. You built her that dream house with your own hands. You supported her through business school. You've been nothing but good to that woman. I finished my coffee and stood up. Well, she wants to be single. I'm going to help her with that. What are you thinking, Eddie? Big Mike asked. I'm thinking roommates have rules. Time to establish some boundaries. I drove home to find Mara sitting on the front steps, still wearing her party dress from the night before. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was a mess, and she looked like she'd been crying. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Where the hell have you been? She demanded as I got out of her car. Out, like roommates do. I walked past her to the front door. You might want to call Lance for a ride. Roommates don't usually provide transportation services. Stop saying that word. I turned around. What word? Roommate? But that's what you called me. In front of your friends, in front of your coworkers, in front of half the social elite of this city. I pulled out my phone. Want to see the Instagram posts? Sienna was very thorough in documenting your Declaration of Independence. Mara's face crumpled. I was drunk. I didn't mean... You meant every word. I unlocked the front door with my new key. And you know what? You're right. We are roommates now. Come on in, roomie. We need to discuss the new house rules. The house rules were simple and posted on the refrigerator like we were college kids sharing a dorm. 1. Separate bedrooms. Mara got the guest room. 2. Split all utilities 50-50. 3. No overnight guests without 24-hour notice. 4. Shared spaces kept clean. 5. Personal business stays personal. 6. Roommates handle their own transportation, meals, and social obligations. Mara stared at the list like it was written in hieroglyphics. This is insane, Eddie. We're married. Are we? I was making breakfast, for one. Because married people usually don't introduce each other as roommates at parties. Married people usually don't sneak around with wealth management consultants named Lance. She went very still. What are you talking about? Rita's bar, Thursday nights, 3 months running. I cracked eggs into the pan. You want to play games, Mara? Let's play games. But we're playing by my rules now. You're being paranoid. Am I? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. I'd spent the morning doing reconnaissance while she was locked out. Mara's secret Instagram account, where she posted pictures of expensive restaurants and tagged herself as single and loving it. Screenshots of her Venmo transactions with Lance. Credit card receipts from hotels I'd never been to. Her face went white. You went through my phone? Your phone was on the kitchen counter. You left it here when you went to powder your nose with Lance last night. I flipped the eggs. Amazing what people leave lying around when they think they're being clever. This is harassment. This is roommate behavior. Roommates look out for each other, right? Make sure nobody's being taken advantage of. I plated the eggs and sat down at the kitchen table. Speaking of which, your half of the mortgage is due on the 1st. That's $450. My half? Eddie, this is our house. Our house that I built with my own hands while you were in business school. Our house that's in my name because your credit was shot when we got married. I took a bite of eggs. But hey, you want independence? Independence costs money. Mara stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I finished my breakfast in peace, then called Big Mike. How'd you like to help me with a little project? What kind of project? The kind that involves a certain BMW and a strategic application of construction materials. Big Mike's laugh was like gravel in a cement mixer. I'll be right over. We found Lance's car parked outside his downtown condo building. Beautiful machine, midnight blue, leather interior, probably cost 60 grand. The kind of car that screamed, I have money and want everyone to know it. Shame if something happened to it, Big Mike mused. Nothing destructive, I said, just educational. We let the air out of 2 tires, not slashed, just deflated. Then I left a note under the windshield wiper. Next time, try dating someone who's actually single, a concerned citizen. It was petty. It was juvenile. It felt fantastic. The real satisfaction came that evening when Mara returned home in Lance's BMW, both of them looking frustrated and angry. I was in the living room, reading a book and listening to jazz. Eddie, Mara's voice was shrill. Did you mess with Lance's car? I looked up from my book. Why would I mess with Lance's car? I don't even know Lance. Well, except for that time I caught him following you into a closet at the party. Lance stepped forward, puffing out his chest. Listen, buddy. Buddy? I stood up slowly. I'm 6'2" and built like someone who spent 20 years swinging hammers. Lance was maybe 5'10" and built like someone who spent 20 years sitting in boardrooms. We're not buddies, Lance. Buddies don't sleep with each other's wives. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. I stepped closer. You want to play house with my wife? Fine. But you're going to do it somewhere else. This is my house, and you're not welcome here. You can't tell me where I can and can't go. Actually, I can. It's called property law. Look it up. I turned to Mara. Rule number 3. 24 hours notice for overnight guests. You didn't give notice. He's not staying overnight. Good. Then he can leave now. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a saw. Lance looked like he wanted to throw a punch. I kind of hoped he would. It would make the rest of this so much easier. Instead, he turned to Mara. Call me later. After he left, Mara turned on me with fury in her eyes. You're being completely unreasonable. I'm being a roommate. Roommates set boundaries. I sat back down with my book. By the way, your friend Sienna called. Something about a girls' night out tomorrow. I told her you'd have to check your budget first, since you're paying your own way now. You what? Roommate rule number 6. Handle your own social obligations. I turned a page. Good night, Mara. Try to keep it down. Some of us have real jobs in the morning. She stomped upstairs, and I smiled. This was just the beginning. Mara's counterattack came the following weekend in the form of a house party. She invited everyone from her work, plus Sienna and Julia, plus half the social climbing crowd from the country club. The invitation list was clearly designed to humiliate me, make me look like the antisocial loser who couldn't handle his wife's success. What she didn't expect was for me to embrace the role. I spent Saturday morning in my workshop, then emerged wearing my best contractor casual, clean jeans, work boots, and a flannel shirt that had seen better decades. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and planted myself in the living room just as the first guests arrived. Eddie, Sienna's voice was saccharine sweet. How nice that you're joining us. Wouldn't miss it. It's my house. I raised my beer in a mock toast. Besides, roommates should be social, right? Mara shot me a warning look, but I was just getting started. As more people arrived, I made sure to introduce myself to everyone. Hi, I'm Eddie, Mara's roommate. Yeah, that's what she calls me now. Funny story. We used to be married, but apparently that was too traditional for her new lifestyle. The discomfort was palpable. These were corporate types, image-conscious people who didn't know how to handle raw honesty. They expected polite fiction, not uncomfortable truth. Eddie's being dramatic, Mara said, her smile strained. We're just figuring things out. Oh, we've figured it out, I said cheerfully. She wants to be single. I'm helping her practice. It's very modern, very progressive. Julia Martinez looked like she wanted to disappear into the carpet. Maybe we should talk about something else. Like Lance? I took a swig of beer. Great guy, Lance. Really knows how to treat a woman. Takes her to all the best places. Of course, it's easier when you're spending someone else's money. The room went quiet. Mara's face was bright red. What's that supposed to mean? Sienna demanded. Well, Lance is married too. Did you know that? His wife Jennifer is lovely. Works as a pediatric nurse. They have 2 kids. Tommy and Sarah, I think. Really sweet family. I smiled at the horrified faces around me. I'm sure Jennifer would love to meet Mara. Maybe we could all be roommates together. That's when Lance himself walked in, looking like $1,000,000 in his designer clothes and confident swagger. He surveyed the silent room and immediately sensed trouble. What's going on? Just getting to know everyone, I said. I was telling them about your family. How's Jennifer doing? Still working those long shifts at Children's Hospital? Lance went pale. I don't know what you think you know. I know you've been lying to my wife about being divorced. I know you've been using company funds to pay for your romantic dinners, and I know your wife thinks you're at a conference in Chicago this weekend. I pulled out my phone. Want me to call her? I'm sure she'd love to hear about Mara. The party was officially over. People were already making excuses and heading for the door. Sienna tried to salvage the situation by going on the attack. You're pathetic, Eddie. Absolutely pathetic. No wonder Mara wants out of this marriage. You're bitter and small and honest, I interrupted, which seems to be a rare quality around here. Honest? You're sabotaging your own wife? My wife sabotaged herself when she decided to introduce me as her roommate. I stood up, and my voice got harder. You want to know what's pathetic, Sienna? Pathetic is a 40-year-old woman who makes a living posting pictures of her breakfast on Instagram. Pathetic is enabling your friend's affair because it makes you feel superior. Pathetic is thinking that money and status matter more than basic human decency. Sienna's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone she considered beneath her social status. You can't talk to me like that. I just did. I finished my beer. And here's something else I can do. I can ask you to leave my house. All of you. Party's over. The exodus was swift and uncomfortable. Within 10 minutes, the house was empty except for Mara, Lance, and me. Mara was shaking with rage. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Defend myself? Refuse to be humiliated in my own home? I looked at Lance, who was trying to edge toward the door. Going somewhere, buddy? This is between you and Mara. No, it's between me and the man who's been lying to my wife and stealing from his company to fund their affair. I stepped closer. You want to play games with other people's marriages? Let's see how you like it when the game comes home. Lance tried to look tough. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There are consequences to actions. You're about to learn that lesson the hard way. He left without another word, and Mara collapsed onto the couch, crying. You've ruined everything, she sobbed. I've revealed everything, I corrected. There's a difference. The next few weeks were like watching a controlled demolition in slow motion. I'd planted the charges, and now all I had to do was wait for the explosions. The first one came on Monday morning. Lance's wife Jennifer called Mara at work, having received an anonymous package containing photos of Lance and Mara together, credit card receipts, and hotel records. The conversation was loud enough that half the office heard it, including Mara's boss. The second explosion happened Tuesday when the company's internal audit department received a tip about Lance using corporate credit cards for personal expenses. The investigation revealed thousands of dollars in fraudulent charges, all coincidentally on the same dates Lance had been wining and dining my wife. By Wednesday, Lance was suspended pending investigation. By Friday, he was fired and facing potential criminal charges. Mara came home each day looking more defeated. Her friends had distanced themselves after the party disaster. Her reputation at work was in tatters. Her affair partner was unemployed and facing a messy divorce. You did this, she accused me over dinner, one of the few meals we'd shared since implementing the roommate rules. I did what? Don't play dumb. The photos, the audit, all of it. You destroyed Lance's life. Lance destroyed Lance's life. I just helped speed up the process. I cut my steak calmly. Actions have consequences, Mara. You both forgot that? He's ruined. His career, his marriage, everything. And whose fault is that? She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. When did you become so cold? About the time my wife started calling me her roommate in public. I met her eyes. You want to know the truth, Mara? I've been cold for months. Cold and calculating and planning. You thought you were so clever, sneaking around, living your double life? You thought I was just stupid, Eddie, too dumb to notice, too weak to fight back. I never thought you were stupid. You thought I was disposable, a placeholder until something better came along. I leaned back in my chair. Well, congratulations. You got your wish. You're single now, just like you wanted. We're still married. On paper, but that's about to change too. The final explosion came the following Monday. Mara's boss called her into his office to discuss her inappropriate relationship with a former employee and its impact on the company's reputation. The conversation ended with Mara being placed on administrative leave pending their own internal investigation. She came home in the middle of the afternoon, her personal belongings in a cardboard box, tears streaming down her face. "They fired me," she said. "Suspended," I corrected. "There's a difference." "It's the same thing. My career is over. Everyone knows about Lance, about the affair, about everything." She collapsed into a chair. "I'll never work in this industry again." "Probably not in this city," I agreed. "Reputation matters in a small town. You might have to start over somewhere else." "How can you be so calm about this?" "Because I'm not the one who threw away a 12-year marriage for a few expensive dinners and some attention from a married con man." I stood up. "You made your choices, Mara. Now you get to live with them." "I want to work this out." "No, you don't. You want me to fix this for you. Make it all go away. Forgive and forget. Go back to being the reliable husband who cleans up your messes." I shook my head. "But I'm just your roommate, remember? Roommates don't fix each other's relationship problems." That night, I heard her on the phone with her parents, crying and asking if she could come stay with them for a while. The conversation didn't go well. Apparently they'd heard about the scandal too, and weren't thrilled about their daughter's behavior. She tried Sienna next, but that call was even shorter. Sienna was dealing with her own problems. Someone had sent screenshots of her Instagram posts about me to her sponsors, and they weren't happy about being associated with someone who mocked working-class people. By the end of the week, Mara was completely isolated. No job, no friends, no support system, and a husband who treated her like exactly what she'd claimed to want, a roommate. "I'm sorry," she said Friday night, standing in the doorway of my workshop. "I'm sorry for everything, the party, Lance, all of it. Can we please try to fix this?" I looked up from the cabinet I was building. "Fix what?" "Our marriage, our relationship, us." "There is no us, Mara. You made that clear when you decided to live a double life for 4 months. You made it clear when you introduced me as your roommate. You made it clear when you chose Lance over me." I went back to my work. "You can't unmake those choices." "People make mistakes. People make mistakes. What you did was make a series of calculated decisions designed to humiliate and replace me. That's not a mistake. That's a plan." I set down my tools and looked at her directly. "And now I have a plan too." "What kind of plan?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You'll see." The final act began on a Thursday morning with a phone call from my lawyer, Tom Bradley. Tom and I had gone to high school together, and he'd handled the legal work for my business for years. More importantly, he was discreet and thorough. "It's done," he said. "All the paperwork is ready. You sure you want to do this?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. "It's going to be brutal, Eddie. Public and brutal." "Good. She wanted to be single in public. Let's make it official." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Mara had been living as if she were single for months, posting on social media, accepting gifts from Lance, even filing her taxes as married filing separately without telling me. What she didn't realize was that every one of those actions had legal implications. At exactly noon, a process server arrived at the house to deliver divorce papers. But these weren't ordinary divorce papers. They were a comprehensive legal document that detailed every aspect of Mara's deception, complete with evidence, financial records, and a demand for restitution. Mara read through the papers with growing horror. "You're claiming adultery and fraud?" "I'm documenting adultery and fraud. There's a difference." I was sitting calmly at the kitchen table, drinking coffee. "You accepted gifts from Lance totaling over $15,000. You used our joint credit card to pay for hotels where you met him. You lied on legal documents." "That's not just adultery, Mara. That's theft." "You can't prove..." "I can prove all of it. Bank records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, photographs, text messages, witness statements." I gestured to the papers. "It's all there. 27 pages of documentation." Her hands were shaking. "What do you want?" "I want you out of my house by the end of the week. I want my name off any accounts you've opened. I want restitution for the money you stole. And I want you to sign a confession acknowledging what you did." "A confession?" "Page 23. A simple statement acknowledging the affair, the theft, and the fraud. Sign it, and we can settle this quietly. Refuse, and it all becomes public record in divorce court." Mara's face went white. "You're trying to destroy me." "I'm trying to end this marriage with some dignity intact. My dignity." I finished my coffee and stood up. "You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to decide. After that, the offer expires, and we do this the hard way." "The hard way?" "Public divorce trial. Full media coverage. Every detail of your affair and the financial fraud becomes public record. Your parents will read about it in the newspaper. Your former coworkers will read about it online. Everyone in this city will know exactly what you did and how you did it. She stared at me like I was a stranger. When did you become so ruthless? When my wife decided to destroy our marriage for a few cheap thrills with a married con man. I headed for the door. You wanted to play games, Mara. Congratulations. You just lost. I spent the rest of the week at Big Mike's house, giving Mara space to think and pack. The decision came Friday morning in the form of a phone call from Tom Bradley. She signed everything, he said. The confession, the restitution agreement, all of it. She wants this over. And the house? She's moving out today. Her parents are driving down from Portland to help her pack. I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. 12 years of marriage, ended with signatures on legal documents. But it was the right ending, the only ending that preserved what was left of my self-respect. I returned to the house Friday evening to find it empty except for my belongings. Mara had left the divorce papers on the kitchen table, along with a handwritten note. Eddie, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't blame you. I made terrible choices and hurt the one person who never deserved it. I hope someday you can find happiness with someone who appreciates what a good man you are. I'm sorry for everything. Mara. I read the note twice, then threw it away. Apologies were just words, and words were cheap. Actions mattered, and her actions had spoken clearly for months. That night, I sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools and projects that had always brought me peace. The house was quiet, really quiet, for the first time in months. No arguments, no tension, no lies hanging in the air like smoke. My phone buzzed with a text message from Big Mike. Rita's having a divorce party for you tomorrow night. Whole crew's coming. You in? I smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it. The next evening, Rita's bar was packed with friends, co-workers, and half the blue-collar population of the city. Word had gotten around about the divorce, and the general consensus seemed to be that I was better off without Mara. To Eddie, Rita announced, raising her glass, who proved that nice guys don't always finish last. Sometimes they finish with dignity. The crowd cheered, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Belonging. These were my people. Honest, hard-working, loyal people who understood that respect was earned and trust was sacred. Speech, someone called out, and the crowd took up the chant. I stood up, beer in hand, and looked around at the faces of people who had supported me through the worst period of my life. 12 years ago, I married a woman I thought I knew. Turns out I was wrong. But you know what? Being wrong about one person doesn't make you wrong about everything. I raised my glass. Mara wanted to be single, and I helped her achieve that goal. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is give them exactly what they ask for. The laughter was warm and genuine, and I realized that this moment, surrounded by real friends who valued honesty over image, was worth more than all of Mara's social climbing and status seeking. She called me her roommate, I continued. Said we were practically single. Well, now we're completely single, and I couldn't be happier about it. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Big Mike slapped me on the back. What's next for you, Eddie? Rita asked. I thought about it for a moment. I'm going to build something solid and lasting and honest, something that won't fall down when the wind changes direction. Like what? Like a life worth living. The party went on until closing time, and I walked home through the quiet streets of my city, breathing the cool night air and feeling truly free for the first time in months. Mara had wanted independence, and she'd gotten it. But so had I, and I was going to make the most of it. As I unlocked the door to my empty house, I thought about the note she'd left behind. She hoped I could find happiness with someone who appreciated what a good man I was. Maybe someday I would, but for now, I was content to appreciate myself. I'd played her game and won, not through violence or cruelty, but through patience, planning, and the simple application of consequences to actions. She'd wanted to be single, and I'd helped her achieve that goal in the most thorough way possible. Some people might call it revenge. I called it justice. Either way, it felt good to be the winner for once.